Welcome to the One of a Kind Lead Out Loud podcast. I am Professor G, and I am joined today by... we don't have a cool code name for you, Mariam.
Maybe
that's your name. Oh, we don't have a cool code name for you. That's who I'm joined by. No, I'm joined by Mariam Laes today. We will get more into her introduction here in a moment, but first I have to say that this is another real leadership edition of the podcast, which might lead one to ask, well, Professor G, will we ever go back to the podcast the way it was? I have no idea. This is just one episode at a time for me, and apparently I'm not the first person to put real, R-E-E-L, and leadership together, as Mariam was just pointing out, so I'm very disappointed to hear that. Whatever. Okay, so Mariam and I have recently begun a new endeavor together. It is called Headroom Advisors, and how would you describe it, Mariam? I'm gonna let you describe it before I further elaborate.
Right. I don't even want to call it a passion project, but we are both very passionate about this topic, and decided that after years of doing this for other people at various size companies, this thing being optimizing, setting up processes.
No, we totally know what our company is.
I don't know how to put into words. We did so much. We covered so much, but basically we're really good at taking chaotic systems that don't exist, teams, and then aligning them and setting them up with a structure or a system that's going to allow them to be successful. So we did this at places like Lockheed. You did it at Boeing. We both did it at Sprint Ray, which was a startup. And then we've also had other projects with different companies and industries. And we decided, okay, instead of doing this separately, we're better together. And so we decided to join forces. And now we're offering consulting service, operational consulting, and team leadership.
We bring order to chaos, and sometimes, though, we cause a little bit more chaos up front. Because if I were to take everything you just said and distill it down into a couple of words from me, we both are good at challenging the status quo. And that is why we thought it would be fun, as we create this new company together, to jump on here and do a podcast episode, real leadership style, on the movie Moneyball. Because it's all about challenging the status quo, and I've got some quotes that I jotted down that we'll get to here in a little bit. But that's what's happening. That's what's happening today. And Mariam kind of alluded to it, but she and I have worked together for many years now. Let's see. I don't like to name drop all that. I'm gonna have to go bleep all the names of those companies. Not really. No, but what I like to say is I was in a position to hire Mariam twice, and I did because she's fun to work with and she's good at what she does, and so now I don't have to worry about hiring her anymore because I work for her.
We work together.
All right. Before we get too much farther here down the rabbit hole, I'm going to start off the way I often do, which is to read the ChatGPT version of the movie synopsis. Let me switch my screen here so that I can get to that.
Our young listeners in the audience, do they know that a long time ago, every VHS and DVD cover on the back would have a little synopsis or a little teaser about the movie? They probably don't know that because now everything is just through trailers online, visually.
they don't know what VHS is. Never mind knowing about the. I'm surprised you know what VHS is. So Mariam is
Oh,
notorious. Mariam is notorious for not giving a shit about things that were invented or made or occurred before her date of birth,
yeah.
which I could say out loud, but then I'd have to bleep that.
It's like the Old Testament, I know it existed, but like, does it really matter?
Man. Listen, I've been saying for years that I want more engagement on the show, and so I guess hate mail qualifies.
All mail is good mail. Okay, sorry, I derailed us, but yes, let's read off the Chat GPT synopsis.
Also, though, I mean, if I go on to look, I watched this on Prime, and when you pull up the titles on Prime, it still gives you a description of what it is. You don't have to do everything through trailers.
It does, but the fact that it's not coming up like word for word like a subtitle makes me think that no one under the age of 25 is actually reading a paragraph at a time.
Well, okay, listen, if you're under the age of 25 in the year 2026, so if you were born in 2001 or later, let us know. If you were born 2000 or later, we'll go 26 and under, okay?
If you didn't watch the Twin Towers fall, I don't want to hear from you.
Okay.
You've not been scarred.
93. No, I guess you did. Okay, good. All right. Let me get on to the description here. I'm so excited. This was released in 2011. I picked the movie in part because I knew Mariam would be okay watching it since it was after her date of birth. Released in 2011, Moneyball was directed by Bennett Miller and produced by Columbia Pictures. The film stars Brad Pitt as Oakland Athletics general manager Billy Beane, Jonah Hill as analyst Peter Brand, Philip Seymour Hoffman as manager Art Howe, and Chris Pratt, no relation to Spencer, as first baseman Scott Hadberg. The screenplay was written by Steven Zalian and Aaron Sorkin and was adapted from Michael Lewis's best-selling 2003 book, Moneyball, The Art of Winning an Unfair Game. So it is based on a true story, although they do take some creative liberties, which we'll probably address later here. The movie follows the Oakland Athletics following the 2001 baseball season. Competing in Major League Baseball with one of the smallest payrolls in the league, the A's face a seemingly impossible challenge. How do you compete against teams like the New York Yankees, who can spend 3 or 4 times as much on talent? After losing several star players to wealthier teams, Beane meets a young economics graduate named Peter Brand. Together, they begin questioning many of baseball's long-held assumptions and use data analytics to identify undervalued players that traditional scouts have overlooked. Their approach sparks resistance throughout the organization. Scouts reject it, the media ridicules it, coaches push back against it, so do managers. We'll hear about that too. Yet Beane becomes convinced that if he continues playing the game the same way everyone else does, his team will continue getting the same results. Reasonable assumption. What unfolds is more than a baseball story. It's a case study in leadership, innovation, change management, decision-making, organizational resistance, and the challenge of leading people through transformation when the evidence points in a direction that tradition refuses to follow. I do like that. That's a good... I probably could have just read that paragraph. That was pretty good. Couple of quick little trivia tidbits here, just as I went through that. So the character of Peter, played by Jonah Hill, so Peter Brand is not a real character. That was that was creative liberties. It's really a compilation of several people that were involved in doing the same things, but it wasn't a single person. And if it was, his name was not Peter. It's interesting too, and I know that baseball is not Mariam's favorite sport. I think before we started rolling, she said baseball is so boring. You might have said so effing boring. I can't remember, but that just hurts my heart. The Oakland Athletics are no more. They have left.
Oh, I was wondering why I'd never heard of them.
Well,
And I was like, who are these people?
you've never heard of them because A, you don't like baseball, and the team was originally created before you were born. But they've left Oakland and they're going to Vegas now. So the hotel that used to be the Tropicana on Las Vegas Boulevard was demolished and is now a baseball stadium. I think it's still under construction. And Oakland, or the Athletics, are now moving to Las Vegas. There's some background on why that is that's not relevant to our story today, but it's just kind of ironic that here we are talking about a movie that deals with the Athletics, and they're not in Oakland anymore. But that is where most of the story takes place. I've got a few other pieces of trivia that we'll get to in a little bit, but let's just start off with Mariam. This was your first time seeing the movie.
Yes.
What'd you think of the movie?
I actually really enjoyed it, and I thought it was interesting that the protagonist was still portrayed as like a flawed human. Because there were times where he came across Billy Beane. He came across as kind of like an asshole. And my understanding is in real life, he is a little bit of an asshole. But it didn't take away from like the message, of the movie and all the things that you touched on in the synopsis, where it's like, what happens when somebody has an idea and before they can prove out that it's a good idea, what is the pushback you get? And it was nice to see that from all the different characters and their like different levels within the organization. You see it from like the players, the scouts, I don't know that the owner didn't believe in the general manager's way of doing things, right? I think he was just kind of like, are you sure?
The owner, so the owner is Steve Schott, played by Bobby Kotick, I believe. You're talking about the owner of the Athletics, right?
Yes, because Billy was the general manager, not the owner.
Billy was the GM.
Yeah.
Steve was the owner. Steve was not going to invest, either could not or would not invest any more money, because the movie starts off, they show them losing in 2001, and Billy goes to him and says, look, I need more money because I can't compete. And he basically says, you're going to have to do the best you can with what you've got. So he was not going to invest any more money, either because he didn't want to or he didn't have the money. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you have the manager of the team, which is Philip Seymour Hoffman's character. That was Art Howe was the character's name. So it's kind of like if we were to put this...
He was the coach. So he's not the coach.
He was the manager. So the way the way the baseball organizations work, you'd have... So Steve, the owner, he'd be like the CEO.
Right.
Billy Beane is like a VP. And then you've got the director would be Art, so the team manager. And then the manager is going to have a bunch of coaches underneath him. So those would be like your managers in the organization. If we continue the analogy, you've got a CEO, that's the owner of the team. Then you've got like the VP, and that's the general manager. And then you have a director, and that's the team manager. And then the coaches you don't really get to see in the movie, but they would have a pitching coach. They'd have a hitting coach. They'd have a running coach. They're going to have a coach for all the key areas. And those would be like the managers within the organization if this was a corporate structure.
I actually thought the owner... To tie it back to what you're saying, I thought the owner was more of like a board of directors and Billy Beane was a CEO, because Billy Beane was calling the shots, and it seemed that he didn't have to answer to anybody. Like nobody could fire him except for the owner. In my eyes, but the owner wasn't calling any shots. They were just like providing funding and guidance almost.
That's fair.
So I almost like just to like level everybody up, like just one tier higher, because of how removed the owner is from the day-to-day decision making, right? Whereas a CEO is typically not, like they do have to have some say. But the board of directors are pretty removed. So that's why that's how I saw it.
I think that's fair. I would still put Billy in the category of like a VP. But Steve, sure, the owner, you can call him the CEO, you can call him a board of directors. You're right, he was pretty hands off. I don't know that that's universally true though, because you look at some other teams and some of those owners want to be very involved. This guy kind of, well, look, let's take a real life example. Artie Moreno owns the Angels, and Angel fans throughout California are hoping and praying and waiting for him to sell the team, because he's just kind of treating it like, it seems like he's treating it as just kind of some like extra spending money. He doesn't care about it. It's a little like this, right? He doesn't seem to care about growing the team into a team that could actually go and win the World Series or win a title. He doesn't seem to care too much about trying to fill the stadium. He just wants to pay the bills and have a positive return on his investment, which it seems like he's doing with not a lot of he's not very involved. But you go to, say, the Yankees or one of these other teams, and you might find an owner that's a little bit more engaged and involved and maybe actively putting money into the team. All of that is to say, I don't even know what we were saying. It was a good movie.
I think I thought I really, let's just stay on this point for a second about asking for money, because I think there's a lesson to be learned here for organizations of all sizes. So when you're a big company, you usually can start an initiative and go ask for money at the start of a fiscal year. So you might have your company might have the resources to ask for more money to get the latest and greatest tool. But that usually doesn't solve your problem, because you're not getting to the root cause of the problem. And then if you're a startup, the lesson here is like, don't just throw money at new tools or new people. You got to figure out what's actually working and like dial that in and spend money where it matters. So make sure your formulation is correct, because if your formula is off, the input is not gonna it's not gonna generate the output you want. So it's like, no matter how much money they were gonna throw at the problem, not no matter how much, but like that may not have solved their issue if their players weren't set up in a way where they were actually complementing each other's statistics.
No, I get you what you're saying exactly. I mean, sometimes the money, organizations or teams or groups, whatever bucket you want to put it in, that have unlimited resources, oftentimes are not very efficient organizations.
No, they're so wasteful.
Yeah, they don't have to be.
Right.
They don't have to be. And so that's kind of one of the things that was great about the owner saying, you got to do the best you can with what you've got. That's what forced Billy to go, okay, what we're doing is not working. So what can we do differently? Knowing that he can't just go write a check and solve the problem.
Yeah.
Which often writing a check doesn't solve the problem. It alleviates a symptom. Typically.
Yeah, it's like a Band-Aid, solution, but it's not solving the actual problem, which is what sometimes you and I get in trouble with or in trouble for. We ruffle feathers because often you and I don't care about we don't care about the Band-Aid solution. We want to find out why we're bleeding. And if we point it out, that doesn't always sit well with other people. So it's, I don't know. It was interesting to see. You didn't really see Billy, though. I didn't see his journey. I wish they had spoken a little bit more about like how his creative like thinking process to get to this like alternative way of doing things. The movie took creative liberties and because the reality is the Peter, whoever the guy was, that's like an amalgam of real life people.
Yeah.
Those people were already on the team in real life. They were already hired and working for Billy. It's not that he went out and like recruited some savant and then incorporated this methodology. So I kind of wish they had shown us a little bit more about like, okay, why, like what, okay, you don't have money, but what made you switch to this? And what was his process of like, oh, okay, I don't know, just kind of, I don't know where I'm getting at.
Well, okay, so let's dive into that a little bit. First of all, it's portrayed in the film as Billy's trying to do the best he can with what he's got. So he goes to another team, flies out. I think it might have been Boston. Now I can't remember, but he goes to another team. And he's sitting with their general manager, and he's trying to make some trades. He's trying to see, okay, what's the best I can do with the resources I have? And he's got a couple of guys that he wants. And there's a dude in the corner of the room that whispers to somebody else in the room that gets up and goes and whispers into the GM's ear. Yeah. And the GM was ready to make the trade. And then all of a sudden he goes, you know what? Yeah, that's not going to be possible. And so this is how the movie portrays Billy becoming aware of this thing that is the predictive analytics applied to baseball, because the guy that whispers the thing is Peter, who is, again, represented by the collection of people in real life that started doing this. So I think that's how the movie tells the story. And I think that's fine. The reality is, yeah, teams started slowly incorporating this. I don't know if there was an aha moment. I don't know enough about the actual history, but it doesn't matter, because what was happening is there was a transformation occurring, and teams started getting hip to it. And they're like, and then they have a decision to make. Do we want to adopt this or not? Are we going to change the way we think and give this a try, or not? Which leads me back to, I want to go into what you were talking about a minute ago. You kind of hinted at it. But again, in the beginning of the movie, towards the beginning, Billy is sitting in the room with his advisors. So you were talking about how we're not always very popular because we want to go after the root cause. Well, this happens to him. He's got all these scouts that have years and years and years, decades of experience in baseball and scouting. And they're going through the players and talking about which ones they want to try and get. And they can't really afford anybody. And so Billy keeps saying, stop. Stop trying to replace Giambi. So they lost Jason Giambi. He was their star player. They can't afford him. So they're trying to go find a player to replace this one player, but they've got the equivalent of like $100, and this dude's $1 million, right? So I love this scene, because it's actually a couple of scenes, because he just keeps saying, look, you guys are still trying to replace Giambi. You got to stop. If we play like Yankees in here, meaning in the room where they're strategizing about which players they're going to go get that they can't afford, if we play like Yankees in here, we lose to them out there. So he realizes that the same way of doing things is not going to work. If they try to play like the big boys in the recruiting game, they're going to get their asses handed to them because they're not able to play that game. Right. And these guys won't let go of that. They're like, no, you don't understand. We've been doing this for years. And I was like, oh my God, I'm having a PTSD episode right now.
I know. And they said, oh, we've done this for years. And like, you should take our advice. There's so much wisdom in this room. And it's like, oh God, okay.
Yes.
Heard that before. Like, what do you know? Have you ever built a company? This is my company. And I've been doing this for 30 years and you've only been out of college for 5. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, the data says otherwise, but okay.
Then there's a line, there's a quote from Billy Beane in the movie that I think we should start using with our potential clients. He says, we are card counters at the blackjack table, and we're going to turn the odds on the casino. Because at this point now, he's brought in Peter, and Peter's going, no, we want this guy and this guy and this guy. And they're going, what are you talking about? These guys are horrible. But of course, the whole, maybe we should say this, the whole premise of the approach is we don't need to go buy high caliber players. We need to go buy runs. Runs win games. If you want to win, you need runs. How do you get runs? You increase your on-base percentage. Okay, great. Who can go get on base? And so these scouts are going, well, this guy can't hit home runs. He's got a crappy batting average. And he's like, yeah, but he gets on base a lot. Maybe he walks to get on base, right? He's like, I don't care how he gets there. As long as we get him on the base, then we can bring him home. And so they're in that mode, and that's when he lays that quote on, or that line, we are card counters at the blackjack table, and we're going to turn the odds on the casino. And I'm like, man, yes, do it.
I know. Such good writing. I thought it was really good. Let's see, what was next on your observations?
Well, I did something a little bit different this time. Normally I'll go through character by character. But I tried an experiment. I wrote down all these notes you can see. Okay, for those of you watching, I actually have real life notes. And then I just took a picture of the notes and I gave them to chat. And I said, hey, organize my notes.
And it said, what is this chicken scratch? No, I'm kidding.
Actually, Mariam, it says these are great prep notes. So
okay. Well, if chat says it must be true.
I should give it to Claude, have Claude improve it, give it back to chat, and it's going to say, oh, these are much better. What chat did is it organized kind of by idea. And so I thought, well, let's try that. We'll give it a shot and see if we kind of get through these things a different way.
I like that.
So the first theme, or the first thing it picked up on, and because I wrote this down, the first person through the wall gets bloody.
Yes, yes. When he's talking to the Red Sox guy, he's trying to recruit him as a GM, and he made him that offer, and he's like, but I lost, and he's like, yeah, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Billy. So Billy is, man, okay. Here's why I love this. I have felt this way a lot. I've talked about it before, right? It's really hard doing what we do a lot of times to recognize or even just find out about the good things that maybe came from your efforts, because the first person through the wall gets bloody.
Yeah.
And so Billy, they lose. They didn't make it through the playoffs. They lost the last game. And he's still getting this job offer from John Henry from Boston. And he's beating himself up, and he's like, look, the first person through the wall gets bloody. Which we see that throughout the movie. I just described the scene where he ends up, by the way, he ends up firing one of the scouts, because the scout's just like, hey, this is what you're going to ruin the whole team.
Right. And
he's like, look, I'm not going to fire you. And the guy tells him to fuck off. And he goes, well, now I'm going to fire you.
And I like that scene.
And then, the whole rest of the time, they're kind of weaving in this news footage where you can hear that people are doing interviews and they're going, what is Billy doing? He's going to get fired. This is how you get fired, right? Yeah, well, he's trying something that's never been done before, and the first guy through the wall always gets bloody. That was the first one. I'm making sure I didn't miss anything on that one. Okay, here's the second one. I know I'm going to let you weigh in on this one. I'm just going to tell you what the quote is, or what I wrote down, and I'm going to let you. This is from Peter Brand. I'll set the scene up just a little bit. So they've put this team together based on the statistics, and from the outside it looks like a ragtag team. And the problem that now Billy runs into is that his manager, Art Howe, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, is not cooperating, because Billy has put this team together. And so the character played by Pratt is a first baseman, but he's never played first base. And so nobody wants to take a chance on him, including the manager. So he won't put him in. He's not playing. Right. And Billy's going, look, I put this team together, but it's only going to work if you play the team the way that I have assembled the team.
Right.
And so then the manager's not doing it. And so Billy he starts trading people, and he's making calls, and he's upset. And Peter is sitting in his office, and he says, don't make an emotional decision.
Uh-huh. so good. It's so good. It's so good. There's actually so much to unpack here too, because um I don't even know where to begin, but I'm going to begin here because it's kind of the first thing that popped in my head as you're even setting this up. I was like, I know exactly where he's going. So a couple of things, right? Which is we've run into this as well, which is like, okay, we've figured out the issue. We have created the tool you need to be successful, and this is they do kind of talk about this a little bit. If you don't democratize the information, if you don't train your user on how to use that tool properly, it's not going to work, right? You could have the sharpest pair of scissors, but if no one's picking them up, they're not cutting anything. So it's like, okay, there's kind of like that element. He didn't really communicate very well why he was doing what he was doing or why he believed it would work. So then it wasn't being executed properly. You also just have resistance from somebody who is so set in their ways. They really truly believe they know how to do it best. So Billy didn't really do a great job of changing his mind. He ended up just forcing his hand in the movie. And in real life, you don't get that luxury. So typically the change makers are the people who are lower, usually I found people who are challenging the status quo are here in the hierarchy, and the people who are hanging on for dear life to the way we've always done it are here. And so
and for
in
those
the
of
movie,
you listening and not watching, Mariam's
yeah.
second hand was above her first hand,
Yes,
implying that it's leadership that's hanging on for dear life.
Typically you find, the higher up somebody is in an organization, I don't want to generalize, but this has been my experience, the more they will hang on to the ways things have been done. And it makes sense because that's what made them successful. And they want to continue being successful. So they're going to replicate their behavior. We are creatures of habit. We identify patterns to survive. So it makes sense, right? Psychologically and behaviorally why you do that. But in the movie, Billy was able to force the hand of, basically he forced him to use the tool the way it was intended, like play the team the way I built it.
Tell everybody how he did that.
It was
an awesome. It was
kind of awesome. It was an emotional, but I will say it was an emotional decision as well. Like like Peter's telling him, don't be emotional about it, but Billy was emotional about it, but it kind of paid off for him because what he did is he traded all the players that were getting played in positions he didn't want them playing, so that there's only one player left to play in the position where he wanted him to be played. So then the manager was forced to play it the way so in our like tool scenario, I guess, like if you're using a knife and a toothpick and I'm handing you scissors and I want you to use the scissors, I will throw away the knife and toothpick. Yes. So then the only tool you have left are scissors. And like that might infuriate you, but that's all you have left. So it's kind of what Billy did to his manager. Now, I don't think that's the best way to go about things in real life. I do believe in, like I said, democratizing information, bringing everybody on board, educating people on why you should try things differently, and what the outcome might be. I just think you get more buy-in that way. But yeah, in the movie, he forced his hand. It was a cool scene for movie purposes.
Okay. First of all, I love that you phrased it the way you did, democratizing information. I take credit for that phrase. So
you should. You own it.
Since we are business partners, I'm not going to charge you for it. You get to use that one for free now.
Licensing now, so.
But you're right, and Billy acknowledges in a scene very explicitly. When he realizes what's happening, that the players are not being played the way he intended, he brings Art into his office and he says, "You know what? I realize I didn't bring you in on the plan early on. That was my fault. I should have done that. But this is what I need you to do." And then, of course, now it's a pissing contest.
Right.
Because now, just like you said, right, he's going to continue to do what made him successful in the first place because he's a creature of habit and he knows better. And part of it, though, seems like I'm the manager. I get to make this call. You don't get to make this call. And so he's going to make the call. And he continues to play them the way that he wants to and not the way that Billy designed the team until Billy trades them away.
Forces him.
So you're right. Okay, I agree with you and I disagree at the same time. What I like about this, okay, should he have brought Art in early on to try to engage him and get him to buy in? Absolutely, 100%. Does it sometimes happen where even if you try that approach, the person still is not willing
Right.
to, if you'll pardon the expression, play ball? Yes. And so in those instances, sometimes you do have to find a way to trade those players off the team. You do have to find a way to take away that tool that you don't want them to use. I think I've done that before, where, it's like, okay, we just did this. They won't want to use this. So, all right, well, what do we do? Well, find a way to make it so that the scissors, let's make the other tools, let's put some kind of coating on the other tools so when you pick them up, it stings your hands.
Yeah.
Right? And so now they're going to want to use the scissors. Or in the extreme case, you throw that stuff away, and that's kind of what Billy did. So I think you're right in that sometimes you don't always have the ability to do those things the way that you would like to or in the most efficient way. But there's other ways where you can kind of coerce people sometimes into, hey, try this. Try this. And again, all of that is, Billy should have brought him in sooner. But he didn't. And so they ended up where they were. But yeah, it's a pretty, it's kind of a dick move. I don't know how, I felt like it's portrayed initially that he's making an emotional decision. From Peter's standpoint, he's sitting in the office and all of a sudden, Billy's just making calls going, hey, you want this guy? He's yours. I want him off the team. I don't want him pitching tonight, right? And he's going, oh my God, you're making these emotional decisions. I don't know how emotional it was though. Because the scene prior shows Billy, I think that's where he's driving around in circles. So he's thinking, he's trying to figure out, God damn it, what am I going to do? And that's what he landed on. And he'd already tried talking to Art. So how emotional was it? I don't know. I think it appeared more emotional than it was.
Yeah, I could give him that. It's like it's a nuanced situation, right? We weren't in his head, we don't know. In the movie, it paid off. If it hadn't have paid off, we would probably be saying, oh, it was an emotional decision, but because it paid off, we could maybe call it strategic. It's hard to say. I think you could argue it either way. And I wanted just to touch on one thing where you talked about how Art, even though Art was brought on board, I think a little later than one would have liked. Why is he pushing back, right? And this is something we've encountered too, or I don't know if you've encountered it, I've encountered it, but what you don't want to do when you're trying to change something is make somebody feel like you're taking away their control or their autonomy, because that's going to force people to really resist what you're doing. You could have the best freaking, $1 million idea. If it wasn't my idea, you're gonna, right? Or I wasn't part of the decision making, I'm gonna be super defensive and be like, well, why are you hating on the way I do things? And look at my stats, they were great, right? And you always I feel like there's kind of a thing there about control. Art wasn't part of the decision making. Maybe if Art was in the room and they were looking at the stats and making decisions of oh, this player, or here's, maybe things would have gone a little bit differently and he would have played people as intended sooner. I don't know, but it was just kind of interesting. He definitely was vindictive because he felt like he had no control in the situation and Billy was forcing his hand.
I don't blame Art. I don't
either.
I don't dislike him. I don't think he was the bad guy. I've been Art. Everything you just described, you're I don't know if you've experienced this. Yeah, I've experienced it on that end where something's being done to me and I get defensive. So, I get it. I get it. Art was doing what he needed to do. Right up until Billy was like, hey, man, I should have come to you sooner. Can you give this a try? And then,
he refused.
Then it became a pissing contest.
Yeah.
All right, well, yeah. Let's move on to the next thought here. So I don't know if you remember, but in my office at the large aerospace conglomerate, on my whiteboard I had a bunch of phrases that became my go-to. Actually, democratize information was up there.
Was one.
If we were playing Sean's whiteboard bingo, we've crossed off a few squares already. I had another one up there that I wrote down while I was watching this movie. And the note that I wrote down was Billy Beane is the opposite of wishful thinking. So wishful thinking is another phrase I had on the board, because we used to make fun of people. They're like, oh no, the schedule, we're going to get back on schedule. Like, really? Just like that? That's wishful thinking, right? You're not doing any of the things you need to do in order to get yourself on schedule. So what I love about how they portray Billy's character is it shows up in that room again where he's got all of those scouts and all this, probably hundreds of years worth of experience in that room. And those guys say they don't have our experience and they don't have our intuition.
Mm-hmm.
But it was their experience and intuition that put together the team the previous season that didn't make it to the through the playoffs, right? They didn't win. And so it's like, well, wait a minute. Nothing's changed. We've got the same amount of money that we had before. You guys want to do the same thing that we've done before and use wishful thinking to hope, I guess, that it's going to have a different outcome. And Billy's like, no, stop trying to replace Giambi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I love that.
This is where I'm a little bit conflicted, and I think I got to put it in perspective. So it's like, okay, well, they didn't make it to the playoffs, but neither did Billy. Like, Billy didn't win. So on paper, it's like, well, both of your methods failed, but Billy only had one year to do it, right? And they had been doing it for decades. And I think repeatedly, or it alludes to this, but repeatedly, they would be good at scouting the right people for the amount of money that they had. But as soon as they would develop that player would get snatched to a bigger team. So they didn't have the luxury of like, oh, no, it's okay, we're going to get a couple of years to get it right. Like, oh, we found our rhythm at the end of this season, so next season we got in the bag. It's like, no. Your roster's wiped next season because all of your best players are getting snatched. So then the difference in what Billy was doing, which was like, hey, we're recruiting people that nobody wants. Or nobody's going to want. Basically, these are has-beens or just people who've been written off.
Or haven't yet.
Right? And so he was like, basically his method in 1 year achieved the same result, but they were probably going to get to keep all those players the following years because these aren't rock stars that anybody wanted.
Okay, let me start with that. Not necessarily. I mean, look at another real life example. The Angels hired Ohtani, who was kind of a nobody, came over from Japan, turned out to be a kick-ass baseball player. He could pitch. He's a great pitcher and also a great hitter, which is a very rare combination. And then, again, going back to Artie Moreno doesn't seem to want to invest a lot. Could have traded him and brought in a lot of money to the team, but instead they let his contract expire and he got picked up. He got picked up by the Dodgers, right? so that happens a lot with the Angels. Like these players go there because they're like, well, we want to play in the big leagues, and the Angels are like, yeah, okay, well, we're not going to spend a bunch of money. We'll take this guy and this guy and this guy, and then the ones that become something go on to be something, right? They don't do it there. They don't do it there. And part of that is they want to be part of a winning team as well. There's probably some story or some lessons we could get into there. But I want to go back to, you said, well, I'm kind of on the fence because Billy didn't win either. Yeah, but you're skipping to the end of the movie. And so if you're at the end of the movie, if we're now at the end of that season, he tried his method. They didn't make it to the playoffs. Actually, they made it through the playoffs. They didn't make it to the World Series.
They didn't make it to the World Series, yeah.
You can make the argument, well, the old method got us to the same place as the new method. Okay, fine. At the end of the movie, I see that point. At the beginning of the movie, no. And that's when those guys were saying, you're out of your mind. We have all this experience. Like, no, dude, your experience, where'd we get? This is like the ops manager coming out and going, okay, well, we're still behind schedule, so what we need to do is we need to have more boardwalks. We're going to have boardwalks 3 times a day.
And we're going to work overtime.
We're going to work overtime. We're going to just throw a bunch of money going, back to what we said at the beginning. We're going to throw a bunch of money at the problem. Well, wait, that's what you did last year and the year before and the year before, and you still are behind on deliveries. You're still not making your bonus thresholds. And what you just said is your solution is to have more of the same. You want to have more meetings. Mm-hmm. Maybe the problem is you're not doing the right thing at your meetings.
Right.
I that probably told this story before. It's like, I've been on some of those walks, and I'm standing next to, in one case, I was standing next to the site leader. And the team's going, yeah, well, we were supposed to close 10 jobs. We only closed 5. And the site leader, everybody goes, okay, great. They're like so impressed that they know how far behind they are. Meanwhile,
no one asked why.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting there going, well, why? What's in your way? Which brings me back to the owner of the team, Steve, who at one point now, Billy needs more money. He needs like $200,000. He's trying to do a trade. He needs $200,000 to execute this kind of mid-season trade. And he and Peter, the analyst, are trying to make the case that, look, what we're doing, things don't always look like they're working at first. Sometimes it gets a little messier before it gets better. And that's kind of what's happening, in part because Art's not playing ball, right? Or not doing what he's supposed to be doing. But they're making the argument that, look, by the All-Star game in July, we're going to turn this around. And Steve says the greatest thing that a leader can say, what's going to prevent you from accomplishing that? Mm-hmm. And then I think he says, what are you afraid of? And of course, they go, nothing. We're good to go. All right, I would have dug a little deeper maybe on that. Okay, so that's and scene, right? Could we maybe write another half page of dialogue?
Right, I also felt that way too. I was like, well, that was quick.
Right? Like, just like that, so again, he probably doesn't care. But anyway, that was great. And that is going back to, like, wait, he just told you you're behind schedule. You don't want to know why. You don't want to know what's in his way, But he did. So I'll give him credit for that. That was nice.
What's the next?
The next one is about change management. I think kind of we've already
touched on that.
Covered this because it was Art Howe the villain? No, we already talked about that. I don't think he was. He was in. I did write down though. He was in his own way.
Yes.
So there is a lesson there for these people, maybe on the floor, in the operations, whatever the case may be. It's like, well, wait, somebody just delivered you a new tool. They just gave you a shiny new sharp pair of scissors. And you won't even pick them up. You are still using, a razor blade, a dull razor blade to try to cut these things. Like, just try the pair. They brought you the solution on a silver platter, but he wouldn't do it. So he kind of got in his own way a little bit. Let's see. Oh, this is the other point on that. Part of the reason he wasn't the villain is, what's he paid to do? What are his incentives? How is that institutional system set up? His behaviors were aligned with how the system was incenting him to behave.
Right.
Hey, you go play. In fact, he says, there's a line, he tells Billy, I'm going to play the team the way I can explain in interviews next year. Because he's like, I'm on a sinking ship. I'm going to need a new job. You want me to put this guy that's never played first base before on first base and take a shot at that And if it doesn't work, I'm going to be in an interview next year and they're going to go, what the fuck were you thinking?
Yes, he behaved the way he was incentivized to behave.
All right. Accountability versus authority. We touched on this a little bit as well when we kind of went through the hierarchical structure. Billy, this is very common in organizations too. So Billy's accountable for winning, but he doesn't control the payroll, right? He doesn't control the manager. The manager gets to play the players the way he wants to. He can't control how well the players play. That's the player's job. And so it's like he's in this spot where he's got limited control. His accountability is greater than the control that he has, I think.
Yes.
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean...
very real.
Right? Is that the definition of leadership? I mean, it's very real for sure. You're accountable for results you cannot fully control.
Yeah.
I think the argument there would be, well, a good leader finds ways to influence all those elements so that you can get the results that you need, or so that you can at least make it more likely than not that you can get the results that you need.
I think this kind of touches on, like, if the level of control you have matches the level of accountability, you just need to be a good manager.
Yes.
But if your accountability exceeds your level of control, that's where leadership comes in, right? And that's what makes or breaks someone's success.
I love that. I'm going to make a new Lead Out Loud module based on that concept. That was a great way to phrase it.
Which you can all purchase through Headroom Advisors.
That's right. An exclusive license.
I also wanted to just touch, sorry, on art. I thought, because this happened in the movie, and I was like, man, isn't this so real life? Art was getting none of the blame, but all of the credit.
He was getting the praise.
He was getting all of the praise and none of the blame. And the guy with the good idea was getting all of the blame and none of the credit. Yes. And that is so how it goes in life, right? Yes. We don't always, you need to find do not chase after praise at work. Obviously, there has to be some level of recognition so that you can move up. That's just called politics. But when you do something, especially if you're going to initiate change or challenge the status quo, you need to really believe in it and do it because you really believe it's the right thing to do and the best way. Like, you got to tie that to something else than just like, oh, well, I'm out here to get the promotion. So you're not going to get promoted for challenging the status quo. You're not.
Accurate. No, in fact, you might get fired.
Yeah. You will be like Billy, stressed about your job.
Hypothetically speaking, you may not work there anymore.
But your manager will take the credit when it's successful.
No, you're right. And now, okay. To be fair, again, to the storytelling, I don't know if it's being fair, but just to tell people what was happening, the media was praising art as soon as they started winning. So it's after Billy has his emotional decision. Yeah, right? He trades those plays. He basically forces Art to do what he wants him to do. The team starts winning, and everybody's like, "Man, this manager, this Art Howe guy, is on fire. He is winning in spite of all the silly decisions that his boss has made." That's a great catch there, Mayor. I've got two other things that I want to cover. The last of the kind of themes. I got so excited when I heard this quote. It's a process. Oh, well, that's fantastic. No wonder I like this movie. No wonder I like baseball. I'm a process guy. Okay. And I thought, I think now I can't remember who said it. I think it might have been Billy saying it to Peter, or maybe not. But
I don't remember. I think Billy did say it. I don't recall who he said it to, though.
the idea behind it was like, this is a process. You got to give it a minute. Okay, we've got all these things coming together, and this ties right into what you were saying. Okay, so you can have a good process and not get the result that you want.
Right.
Okay.
Immediately.
Again,
right.
Exactly. There's a lot of factors. Is the process the problem? We didn't get the results we wanted. Is the process the problem? Is the execution of the process the problem, right? Do we have the wrong people doing the right things? Do we have the wrong people doing the wrong things? Do we have the right people doing the wrong thing, right? There's a lot of combinations there. So you can have a good process and not get the outcomes you want, period, and also not get the outcomes you want right away.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite is also true, and this goes back now to those guys in the room. You can have a bad process and occasionally get the right results.
Right.
And then you're high-fiving yourself about how great you are. But wait a minute, was that systemic? Like, can you repeat? Is it repeatable? And if it's not a good process, no, it's probably not repeatable. You got lucky.
Yeah, or you brute forced. I mean, you threw excessive resources at something. Just like you talked about the ops manager who was like, oh, we're not going to meet our deadline. So we're going to do all these things. We're going to increase overtime. We're going to do this. We're going to push through to meet our number. And it's like, okay. And then we're all, applauding ourselves and patting ourselves on the back because we made the quarter. And it's like, but did you? Because next quarter, we're going to be having the same conversation.
Yeah. I think also, though, it's... Let's look at hiring, okay? So that might be a better example. That's a good example of kind of that short-sighted, short-term thinking. I used to make fun of people on the production line because we gotta get this thing out. We're coming up on we gotta get it out in 175 days, right? They're at 172 and we haven't flown it yet. Like, let's get it out the door. And they go, oh, we did it. And then they turn around and they go, oh shit, here comes another one. Like,
right.
Hiring, it's like if you don't have a good process, you're going to hire some good people sometimes.
Right.
That's not because you have a good hiring process. It's because sometimes you get lucky. It's just like leadership development. Okay, this Lead Out Loud. I created Lead Out Loud because organizations love to take people that are good at their technical job. Wow, you're a really good analyst, programmer. I'm going to put you in charge of the team. Sometimes it works out fine. Not because it's a good idea, but because that person happened to be well suited for a leadership role. But most of the time, it doesn't work out. And so there's that confirmation bias where you go, well, you know what? We hired Mariam, and she turned out to be really good. Yeah, but you hired 9 other people that were shit. Or they were in the wrong role, right? You had the wrong person to go do the right thing. Yeah. So I forgot how we got onto that, but
a process. We were just talking about how you could have the right process and like the wrong people, it doesn't time right, or maybe your success doesn't correspond in the timing that you want it to, but it doesn't mean your process is wrong. And sometimes your process is wrong.
Yes.
And like you said, you get the result you want because you hired the right people. You have a totally broken system, but you hired the right people and they were able to execute what you needed them to. But can you replicate that when those people leave?
This ties now directly into the last thing, I think. That maybe it's not the last, but another thing. It goes back to the Chris Pratt character.
Mm-hmm.
So this dude was a catcher and injured himself. Can't throw so Mariam, and those of you that are not big on baseball, okay, the catcher has to be able to throw that ball all the way to second base,
but he's just catching. Why does he have to throw?
In case somebody steals second, Mariam. So that's a long ways. All right. He injured himself. He's good enough to play, but he can't throw the ball like that anymore. First baseman basically just needs to catch the ball. Everybody's throwing the ball to the first baseman. So you don't have to be good at throwing. This kid's never played first base before. When they're trying to make the argument, or Billy's trying to make the argument that, hey, we need this guy, we're going to go get this guy and put him on first base. He's got a couple other people too. And the experts in the room, well, none of these guys know how to play first base. And I wrote down, and I think I might have screamed it while I was watching the film, teach them.
Which is what Billy says. Teach them. Pick one. Teach them.
Pick one and teach them. You have a coaching staff. And like, here, this goes back to this leadership thing, right? Well, gosh, we put Mariam in charge. We're going to use Mariam again. We put Mariam in charge of the team, and turns out it didn't work well. Right? She's not doing a good job. So many organizations, they're just like, okay, well, we got to get rid of Mariam. Or maybe we hire Headroom Advisors to come and coach Mariam and teach her how to be a better leader.
Yeah.
Right? They just want to, and look, you and I both worked in organizations, one in particular, where, oh, no, this person's not executing the way I want them to execute. This person must be crap. Get them out, right?
Get them
out, and then let's go smack the person that hired them, because obviously they did a bad job too. No. At least not initially, maybe later. Did Winston fall asleep? Is that,
oh my God, can you hear him?
Do I hear Winston snoring?
Yes, I'm so sorry. Oh my God.
I'll fix it in post.
But
I never do.
Should I switch it to just my AirPod?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
We'll be done soon here anyway. So yeah, I wrote teach them. I circled it. Exclamation points.
I mean, you could have the right person in the right job and the wrong training.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Which goes back to, it's a process.
Yeah.
And more importantly, it's a system. This is where, process and systems thinking, like, yeah, all right, let's start going process of elimination here. Let's start testing things. When I go into my family room and I try to watch Modern Family while I'm eating my lunch, and the sound's not on, I don't go, okay, let me go on Amazon, I got to buy a new receiver, I got to get a new TV. No, it's like, okay, well, let's see. I can see the picture. That part's working. I'm pushing volume. It says it's going on, but I don't hear anything. Okay, let me go check and see what setting is wrong. Right? You just like, let's be systematic about it.
Yeah.
All right. What else you got? Anything that you noticed, jotted down that we have not talked about yet?
I just love the quote, like, it's hard not to be romantic about baseball.
Yes.
I thought that was really sweet. And then it kind of got me thinking, like, when you have a new idea, there's always this moment where you're really excited about what you think the outcome could be. And it's really easy to lose that energy or lose sight of that as you're encountering all these people who are going to doubt you or challenge you, and then in the beginning it doesn't work and you have to believe on your own that it's going to work and try to convince people. So I was just kind of thinking, man, we really should romanticize outcomes when they do work. I think we should we don't do enough of documenting the before. Well, if you're doing a good job, you are documenting the before and after. That's how you can prove that what you did worked. But, I think we're always so quick to be like, okay, on to the next idea or on to the next thing. And it's like, well, why don't we take a second and look back on how excited you were when you had that initial idea? And then if it does work out, how beautiful that is. I don't know. I just thought it was this is just a part of life. We don't romanticize life enough. And the movie did a great job of kind of touching back on that.
We just have to be careful that we're not romanticizing the right things for the wrong reason, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago. But also, as a baseball fan, I love that line. And I just realized I should have worn my Angels hat. Missed opportunity there. It's hard not to romanticize baseball. You know what? We're just going to leave that where it is. That's a great quote. The one other thing I noted down, let's see if you agree with this. Peter Brand, the analyst, I wrote down at one point, he's a great wingman. Let's see if you know why I said that.
Is it because of like at the very, very end, what he did, what he said to Billy?
That was good, but that's not when I wrote it down.
Oh, okay.
It was earlier.
He's a good wingman. I mean, I don't know. I think he was a good wingman, but that's how he was portrayed. I don't know. Why did you write that down? Tell me more.
So when Billy goes in and tells Art, hey, you can't start, I forget the guy's name. It's like, you can't start so-and-so at first base.
Oh, he said, do you agree with him?
Which was a great scene, right? We already kind of talked about it. We didn't describe the scene, but basically Art's like, look, I'm not going to have this conversation with you. He's like, look, you don't have to have the conversation, but you're not going to start him at first base. He goes, yes, I am. Well, he plays for Boston now, or whatever the team was. So Billy walks out of the room, and Peter's still there, and Art looks at him and says, you agreed with this? And the reality is Peter didn't. This is right after Peter said, don't make an emotional decision. And Peter looks at him, takes a beat, and goes, 100%. Like,
yes, yeah.
That's my boy right there.
Standing by him through and through. But was Peter being a yes man in that moment?
Well, good question. Let's take a look. I would argue, was Peter in a position to change what had happened? Let's say that Peter...
I see what you're saying.
Let's say Peter says to Art, you know what? I didn't think it was a good... I think he's being a little emotional right now. Okay. To what end? Right? They still can't play the dude. He's been traded.
Right. The decision's been made. Decide, and now you have to act, and he's going to stand by that action.
Yeah. I mean...
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I see what you're... Yeah. And he wasn't being a yes man because he challenged Billy and said, you don't make an emotional decision in the moment when it was heated privately. Yes. But then when it came time to be a united front to influence the change based on the decision that had been made, he stood by him. Even though he maybe disagreed, he stood by him. And
I think one of the reasons why I like that moment so much is because a younger version of Professor G would have looked at Art and said, I don't know what this dude's doing. Like, we gotta get off this ship. Yeah, man, he's batshit crazy, right? Like, that's an emotional decision. That's ego and emotion. Yeah, man, I don't know, right? He didn't do any of that. He's like, well, yeah, 100% I agreed with it. Did he? No, probably not. I think he demonstrated that. Pena was the guy they traded.
Yeah.
I wrote it down.
I didn't want to say his name incorrectly and like accidentally say a bad word in Spanish, so I remembered that, but then I was like, is that how you pronounce it?
Pena. There's a little tilde over the end.
Right. And I was like, I'm going to leave that for the audience to figure out.
Okay. As we begin to wrap up, I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah, this was a really good movie.
This exceeded my expectations. I'd seen the movie before. It's been a minute, and I certainly didn't watch it through the lens of leadership. But this was a great leadership movie, and a great one for us to discuss because there's so many parallels to what we are now doing with Headroom Advisors and with what we've done in the past, the reason we started Headroom Advisors.
Yeah.
As you may or may not know, because I don't expect everybody to watch all the things all the time, but usually on this Real Leadership Editions, I will ask the guest and then realize, crap, I have to answer this question too. If you could take one character aside and whisper something in their ear, and my buddy Chris gets mad at me when I say that because he says, look, real men and real engineers shouldn't be whispering in anybody's anybody's ear. It's unprofessional. Whatever. You pull one character aside, I don't care if you whisper or not. What would you tell them? What advice would you give them? Or what feedback would you provide?
I mean, I feel like it's so obvious, but it would be like, it's like, it would either be Billy or Peter.
Oh,
Pilly.
Or both, Pilly.
Or both, Pilly. And I would just say, keep going.
Okay.
Like, because they're on the right track. And it's just like I don't know, because they were so sure. In the way that in the movie, they're portrayed as like being so sure of themselves. But in real life, when you face those situations, when you're the change maker, it's disheartening and it's difficult. And you do need that one person in your corner that's telling you, like, keep going. Like, what you're doing is right.
Yes.
Like, don't give up just because you're meeting resistance. Keep going.
Yes. I like that.
It's I don't know, because that's kind of hard. I'm like, wow, little Mariam's gonna go whisper into Billy's ear.
I mean, it's probably more.
Take the GM job. Take the $12.5 million Red Sox job.
I might tell him to do that. I think I would. So there's a moment where I hope I get this right. I'm pretty sure it was Billy talking to Peter. And Peter was kind of, it might have even been the same moment when Billy's making all the trades. But Peter's worried about having to explain things. He's like, this is going to be really hard to explain, like why we did this. And I think it was twofold, right? It was, number one, it was very sudden and seemed like a rash decision, but also it was against what the math was telling them. So Peter was sort of against making these trades because he's like, no, this is the right decision. But of course, Billy realizes, well, we're not going to get what we need. We got to get rid of these guys so that Art will play them. Anyway, Billy says to Peter, it's a problem you think we need to explain ourselves. I think I would pull Peter aside and just add a little extra color commentary to that. Like, hey man, I appreciate that you're thinking about how to explain this, but there's two different camps, right? You don't need to explain yourself to the people that don't matter. And a lot of the people that are going to criticize this decision don't matter. The pundits, the media, the same people that are saying Art's doing a great job. Wow, amazing, right? They don't know. I think that's kind of how I'd frame it. They don't know what the hell's going on. They're just seeing some good results without understanding. Save your explanations for the people that truly need them for the purpose of bringing them on your side. I think that's what I would say and who I would say it to.
Yeah, I was, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit confused by Billy's comment there. Like, is he saying the only people we need to explain this to is ourselves? Like, basically, we need to make peace with it, and that's all that matters?
Yeah, well, he was defending his decisions by saying we don't have to explain them to anybody. In a way, Peter, the way it's framed in the scene, he's channeling a little bit of those scouts in the room.
Right.
Like, wait, hold on a minute. We've got this great thing that we've started doing, and now you're going to go do some things that make us look like we don't know what we're doing. And so I think Peter was worried about that. He's like, hey, this is going to make it look like we don't know what we're doing. But in reality, Billy knew what he was doing. He was doing it for a reason. One can argue, I think this is the issue. You can argue, was that a good reason? Hey, Art's not playing Hatberg. Art's playing Pena instead of Hatberg. Okay? I went and I talked to Art, tried to get him on my side. He won't do it. Passed him in the hallway, glared at him, meanly. That didn't work. Okay, he keeps putting this guy. I told him, don't do this again. He did it again. Okay, let me get rid of Pena. Right? He had gone down this pecking order. The people from the outside can't see that. Peter's worried about how it's going to look. Billy's like, no, we need to get the results.
Mm-hmm,
I'm just going to the next rung on the ladder. I tried plan A. Plan A was the best plan. It didn't work. All right, I'm going to plan B. This goes back to he's not using wishful thinking. Well, I'm just going to keep talking to Art and
until Art
hopefully he'll do what I want him to do. No, that wasn't working. So he decide and act, right? He decided and acted. And that's how I saw that. That's why I think he said that, hey, it's a problem you think we need to explain ourselves. Out of context, maybe not the best way to phrase it. But I think in context, I don't care what they're going to say. We got to get results. And then they did, or at least that's how it's portrayed in the movie.
Right.
Okay, great. So the other thing that we typically do at the end of these is we decide what movie's going to be next. And we don't necessarily have to pick one, but this was fun. This was good. Did we mention any other movies that might be adjacent? We can go and talk about those. Or do you what comes to mind as what would be a good one to do next?
I feel like I had a list at one point, but now I don't remember.
It's very helpful, Mariam. Thank you.
What was on the list? Do you have a list?
I do have a list somewhere. I think it's on my phone. I also have a couple that are in the process of being released. One that came up, I was watching an old episode, and I don't think I've done it yet, The Princess Bride.
Oh, I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
So that's probably on the short list. The other one is, and I can't believe I haven't done this one yet, Office Space.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, we talked about The Martian.
We did talk about The Martian.
Yes, The Martian has some good. Yeah. But I like Office Space too. A nice comedy.
I mean, a little on the nose, a little obvious for what this show's about, but that's okay. I like it. We'll take it because that'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Because here's the other thing I'm going to do at some point. We're going to do an episode. Maybe it's the Office Space episode. I want to hear from people. What is the best experience you've had with a manager?
Mm-hmm.
And what is the worst experience you've had with a manager? And no, I'm being deliberate about my phrasing there. I don't want to make it about the person. I'm not saying who's the worst boss you ever had.
Right. It's the experience.
I want to know why, right? I don't care who it was. What was the experience that person created for you that made it like, oh my God, this person's the worst?
This is so cringe.
All of that will be for future episodes somewhere down the line. Mariam, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Yes. Well, we hope it was a pleasure being had. And for all of you, we hope you enjoyed being had as well. We'll see you all next time here on the Lead Out Loud podcast, Real Leadership Edition.